You are Locked On Braves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Braves POSTCAST, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Grant McAuley alongside Jake Mastroianni after what was a series win for the Braves this weekend, but for the second consecutive series, you just kind of had to wonder at least a little bit, could they have done a little bit more as Atlanta fell flat in a 5-1 loss to the Washington Nationals, and were not able to get out of the weekend, the series, the homestand, however you want to put it, the week, without another injury scare. Fortunately, though, not the worst news in this particular case. We'll talk more about that, what it all means, and of course, there's a big road trip coming up for the Braves as well. We've got to dig into that one as well. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta here on YouTube. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Braves, wherever you get your podcasts as well. Today's episode brought to you by Supply House. SupplyHouse.com is a reliable way to get parts fast. Shop for your next plumbing, HVAC, or electrical job and get fast shipping from coast to coast at SupplyHouse.com. Well, I would love to start with the game and only talk about the game, but unfortunately, inside of that, Jake, was some of a familiar song for the Braves, and that would, of course, be an injury scare for a major player. Actually, two in this game, if we want to get technical about it. But the one I'm speaking of first is Michael Harris II, and it happened from the very first batter of this afternoon. He was struck in the left hand and or wrist by a pitch, stayed in the game for a while, then had to leave. Fortunately, we got some good news, but man, we've seen this too much.
Yeah, we have. I mean, there's too many of these situations where our batters are getting hit, and not just, getting hit, but getting hit in the hand, getting hit in the wrist, getting hit in the arm, just areas that sometimes aren't as forgiving. But luckily, it does sound like it's good news here. But yeah, you woke up and turned the game on, or you rushed home from church, whatever the case may be. You settle in, and next thing you know, you're worried about another injury to one of your main players, a guy that really needs to get healthy and get going, because he can be a big part of this Braves lineup. But it just feels like, big setback for him this year with another injury, big setback at the beginning of last year. Really want to get Michael Harris going. I know you and I both think he can be, all-star one day. So want to see that version of Michael Harris, but got to keep him healthy.
Yeah, to do it, you got to be out there on the field, and he's already missed 2 months thanks to that hamstring ailment that got him in the middle of June, and he hadn't even been back for 2 weeks, and now hit on the hand by a pitch. Not the worst news, obviously, is the Braves announced after the game that their initial round of testing showed that there was no fracture. So we got through a weekend without there being a major injury, but nonetheless, it was still a bit of a scare for the Braves. Later in this game, Marcell Ozuna fouled a ball off his knee. That one was one that he was able to walk off, threw some ice on it after the game. He's a big, tough bear, so he said, I plan on being in there tomorrow. We don't know yet about Harris, but I don't know if you need me to tell you that that's a scary moment. And as much as we have asked, where would the Braves be without Marcell Ozuna? Well, now we could ask it in a totally different way and say, what would the Braves do without Marcell Ozuna? That's not a question they want to have to answer.
Not something that you want to think about as a Braves fan. I mean, this offense is, struggles enough as it is. And without Marcell Ozuna, I cannot imagine how this team and this offense could function going forward. I'm sure they could find a way. Guys would have to step up. Soler would go back to his natural DH spot. But either way, you want Marcell Ozuna in there. I mean, he's one of the best hitters in the game. He's fighting for a triple crown. You do not want to lose that guy for any amount of time.
I don't know if that'd be the straw that broke the camel's back. It feels like this camel has been under assault all year long, to continue that pun or that analogy. It's just been one thing after another for this Braves club. I mean, keeping in mind at the backdrop of all this homestand is the Braves got the news they feared about Austin Riley, the fractured right hand. They've been able to weather that storm. They took 2 out of 3 in a Phillies series that I talked about this on my show on Sunday. It was must win. This series against the Nationals this weekend, that was also a must win. And I got some spoiler alerts about the rest of the series for the remainder of the year and how they're also must win. But the Braves have been under a steady assault with these injuries. Fortunately, they've had some guys to step up. But as Brian Snitker talked about at the very start of the week, it's getting hard to find the next man up. And also the players that are getting hurt, these are not guys who are easily replaced, if they're replaceable at all.
Yeah, you just can't. I mean, you're not replacing a Ronald Acuna Jr., even a Michael Harris. I know it hasn't been the best year offensively, but just what he brings you defensively in center field is huge as well, especially when it's a team now that is built around pitching and defense. You want Michael Harris out there in center field. So the injuries that the Braves have suffered, I mean, these are MVP type players. You talk about Acuna and Austin Riley specifically. So it's just, again, it's not just that they have a lot of injuries. It's who's getting injured, and it's the length of these injuries. It's not like they're out for a couple of weeks or just one, short stint on the injured list, it is months at a time that they're missing a lot of these games. As you said, I mean, I think the camel has been broken at this point. Braves are just trying to hang on with whatever's left.
Yeah, I think the camel's still moving. He's hoping to find some water soon, though, that's for sure, because he's got to be downtrodden at this point and, trying to find that oasis in the middle of whatever desert that the Braves have found themselves in from an injury standpoint this season. I don't know how much you've gotten this question. I know I've gotten it a lot, especially given the Riley news, and now just a reminder with another scare for Michael Harris and for Marcell Ozuna here on Sunday. Have you ever seen a team like this that has been this snake bitten by injury? I'll also throw the caveat in, a team that still at this point of the season has a very realistic chance of ending up in the postseason one way or another. But as much as I try to rack through my memory bank, 2021 is about the only thing that comes close from an injury standpoint. But even that was not what they've been dealing with this year.
Yeah, I've gotten that question as well. I think I had it on my last mailbag episode. And it's just, and your memory is much better than mine, but I could not recall a season where it's just this many injuries. And then granted, just also feels like so many things within the game have gone against them as well, with some regression, with some bad ball luck. It feels like we're having ball strike calls go against us every game. And maybe that's just the fact of, where the Braves are right now. But yeah, I cannot remember a season that has everything just gone this poorly for a team.
Yeah, I don't know if they need the sage. I don't know if they need to spend more time in meditation and trying to manifest some different results. I mean, I feel like you've done everything that you can do. Alex Anthopoulos has gone out and gotten some pieces that are at least able to step in and help. And we'll talk about some of those maybe a little bit later on. And we have talked about them a lot over the course of this homestand. But again, these are not replaceable pieces. Now, in the midst of all of the injury discussion that we've had here, the Braves did play a baseball game. They lost that game by a 5-1 score, but another solid start from Reynaldo Lopez, another guy who you've had some concern about as he came off the injured list and got the series started against the Phillies on the right foot. Jake, he followed that up with another really great performance, but the Braves bats ultimately too quiet against DJ Hurst and the Nationals bullpen.
Yeah, unfortunate for Reynaldo Lopez, who threw a great game. I mean, starting pitching has just continued to do its job. If we want to go back to the camel analogy, though, and just think about worst possible outcomes, the Braves cannot lose any starting pitcher. You can't lose any pitching at all. I mean, that is what is carrying this team. It is what's giving them a chance to win, even in this good stretch that the Braves have been on, going 9-4 in their last 13. That's all been because of starting pitching for the most part. You got to score a couple of runs to win, but that's really what they've done. It's been a couple of runs, but for the most part, it's been the starting pitching and the bullpen that has carried this team. You got to have those guys healthy. And Reynaldo Lopez, he is healthy, and he looks like the same Reynaldo Lopez we saw before the injury. Yeah,
we're going to talk about Reynaldo Lopez a bit more as we go along here, but getting him back in there, seeing Max Fried return to form, then you put that with the work that Chris Sale has done this year. Spencer Schwellenbach has exploded onto the scene, been a huge part of the Braves' success. And all of a sudden, Charlie Morton seems to have himself a little bit of momentum going as well. That's a really good starting five. I talked to Pierce Johnson this week. I played that interview on my show on From the Diamond a little bit earlier today, just asking about the injuries and, of course, the loss of A.J. Minter, which affects the Braves bullpen. But even without some of these major players, whether it's Acuna, Strider, Riley, Minter, Albies, who's been out for a long time as well, but hopes to come back in the next 2 or 3 weeks, they've had to find a way to push themselves and to get through it. And knowing that they have a chance to maybe by the time they get to the end of this marathon, get that opportunity in October is still very motivating. But it definitely has felt, especially given the injuries and the inconsistent offense, to be on shaky ground. But this pitching, I think, to use another analogy, that's been the foundation of anything that's gone right for the Braves this year. It has begun, the beginning, middle, and end seems to have something to do with what the pitching staff has done.
And it's why you still have some chance with this team if they can get to the postseason, because I don't think there's going to be many teams that you'll match up with in the postseason that can pitch much better than this Braves team. And it gives them a chance in every game. And we've seen it this past couple of weeks. Like I said, it hasn't been a lot of runs by the offense. It's been this starting pitching. And that's what you're going to see in the offense. You're more than likely going to see really good pitching. You're going to see some low scoring games. And that's why this Braves team, I think, still has a good chance if they can get in. And that is not a given at this point. But if they can, I really do believe that they have a chance to make a good run. And it's because of that starting pitching and that great bullpen out there with Pierce Johnson, Joe Jimenez, Raisel Iglesias, and others. Mm-hmm. It's what still, I think, gives many Braves fans hope is that pitching that has been so good. You just hope this offense doesn't waste this great pitching staff.
That's the strange thing about this year, too, to kind of put a bow on this discussion, is that as good as their pitching has been, as bad as the offense has been, I guess you could say the pitching has been that much better. And somehow the Braves aren't a club that's just looking at a lost season, 5 or 10 games under 500, just looking at the next year. Instead, they're a team that has remained somewhere between 5 and 10 games over 500 all year long. And I know that a hot start certainly helped, but the pitching has managed to keep their head above water for the majority of this season, and they'll be asked to do it over the final, 32 games of the year as well. We'll talk a little bit more about what Reynaldo Lopez did on Sunday. We'll also discuss some of the things that didn't go so well for the Braves bullpen in this one, and of course, dig into the offense a bit more. All that's coming your way as the Braves postcast continues. Get supplies from the site that is made for the skilled trades. SupplyHouse.com is a reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, you can get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get the competitive edge by simply joining SupplyHouse.com's free TradeMaster program. Every TradeMaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Well, let's take the unfortunate look through the line score and box score of this one, Jake, as it was not a banner day for the Braves in the final score, a 5-1 loss to the Washington Nationals, of course. But there were some good things on the pitching side, particularly the starting side. Not so much on the offense. Nationals with 5 runs on 8 hits, 1 error. They left 6 men on base. Braves 1 run on just 3 hits. It came on a solo homer, an error for each team, and 8 men left on base for the Braves in this one. Loser is Luke Jackson, who allowed a couple and make that 3 runs in the 7th inning, which was an ill-fated frame for the Braves. Barnes picks up the win in relief for the Washington Nationals. The save goes to Finnegan, his 32nd of the year. Let's start with Reynaldo Lopez because that's something that certainly went right again for the Braves. 6 innings of 3-hit ball. He allowed 1 run. It came in the very first inning. He really seemed to dial it in there. 3 walks, 7 strikeouts. And something I've really liked that I've seen from Reynaldo is I know that people can get, transfixed on the velocity of a pitcher, and knowing that Reynaldo can push it up there 97 and above, that's certainly tantalizing. But it seems like, Jake, that he really saves those for the times in which he needs them, and he has really shown the ability to use all of his pitches. I guess I say all that to say this is not a thrower. He continues to show that he has a complete arsenal, and he's not afraid to use it.
It was one of the biggest questions for me coming into the season because what made him so great when he switched to the bullpen is that high velocity, that fastball playing up. And you wondered, transitioning back to the rotation, can he maintain that? Can he maintain it deep into a ball game? Well, it's quite the solution was for him. Hey, I just dial it up when I need to, whether it's in the first inning, second inning, fifth inning. We've seen it pretty much all year long. Is he can rear back a little bit to get what he needs, and that's obviously very smart for him. And it's what's helped him be a really good starting pitcher. I do think in this one, the fastball command in particular was a little off to begin the game. Had some of those walks, but then he's able to dial it back in and be his usual dominant self with that fastball slider. 8 whiffs on 15 swings against that slider. It's been such a devastating pitch for him all season long. But I think, what's made it so special is just because he has had that good fastball command and he can dial up the velocity when he needs to. So you did see the struggles early. A lot of that, I think, due to a little bit of that command being off of the fastball, but he was able to rein that in quickly, give the Braves 6 good innings, keep them in the game. Unfortunately, bullpen wasn't able to keep it right there, and the offense didn't score any runs for him.
No, and it's hard to win if you only score 1 run. I mean, we talk about the thin margin of error for Braves pitchers this year. I mean, that's as thin as it gets if the offense is only going to score you 1, or if they get shut out, I guess it could get thinner. But at that point, are we really talking about anything at all? It's just non-existent. But that has been the case for some of these games. Matt Olson with a home run in the 6th inning. That's a good sign. He's had some hard hit balls in this series. We can get back to him in a moment, but you brought it up. The Braves bullpen kind of let this one get right out of hand as soon as the Braves had tied this game up. Luke Jackson came in. He's not been used altogether that much since he came over, but he did get an opportunity in a tie game here. Had a little bit of trouble with his command, maybe a call that didn't go his way, a play that didn't get made behind him, and ultimately uncorking a wild pitch that was a big part of all of this. It just seemed like it was a little bit of everything, and none of it was very good for Luke Jackson in this one.
It wasn't, unfortunately. The return for Luke Jackson hasn't been great so far. But look, I mean, he had a 50% whip rate in this one. That slider can still be really good when located. Like you said, he did have a call 0-2 pitch that didn't go his way. It wasn't framed greatly by Murphy, in my opinion. Also, I just feel like umpires in that 0-2 pitch, sometimes if it's close, I don't know, for whatever reason, same thing in a 3-0 count. You feel like, they're going to call an automatic strike there to try to keep the at-bat alive. I don't know. I mean, he called that exact same pitch the very next inning to Sean Murphy, who was catcher of that one. It's just, again, it's one of those things this year where it just feels like it doesn't go the Braves' way. But either way, I mean, he gave us some hard contact. I know Whit probably is going to tell you he needs to make one of those there, but those balls were absolutely crushed right at him. Just an unfortunate inning. Things kind of got away. I know people questioning, why do you go to Luke Jackson there? We talked about it yesterday. There's been so many close games. You had to use a lot of your best relievers. You have to count on some of these guys at some point to come in and pitch some innings for you and get some outs. Only thing I'll say is you did just tie it up. I imagine Luke Jackson was already hot and you were going to bring him up while you were trailing 1-0. So that's the decision to throw him in there. But just from a fan perspective and Monday morning quarterbacking here, you hate to see that. You tie it up, you get that momentum, and then you throw Luke Jackson out there and he's not able to get it done, and you lose any momentum that you had right there when you tied it up.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I mean, this is an inexact science, managing a bullpen. As you mentioned, a lot of different factors go in, factors to which we're not ever going to really be privy to. And even if you ask the question, because trust me, people have said, well, why didn't anybody ask? Well, you can ask. That doesn't mean they're going to answer it. And even if you do ask in an off-the-record setting, which is usually better than trying to have any kind of a weird gotcha moment in the middle of a press conference, which I don't know that really qualifies for that. But while we're here, I'll just throw it out there anyway. You're not necessarily going to get that answer. But I do think that with Luke Jackson here, I mean, you just are kind of trusting that every time you pass the baton between the members of this bullpen that they're going to get the job done. And someday guys simply do not, or on some days, I should say. Aaron Bummer came in, inning and 2/3, a scoreless ball for him. Jesse Chavez pitched for the first time in a while as well, as he tossed the ninth inning, couple of strikeouts, but also allowed a run. So that was what the Braves pitching side did on this one. And unfortunately, the offense was not able to do a whole lot. I know there was some talk about Jesse Chavez, not being used lately. Brian Snitker kind of dismissed that mostly as, hey, we've been in so many close games. I've just been going to my leverage guys, and the starting rotation has kind of taken us there. So Jesse, I feel like, serves more so in the bridge role in games that are either tied or close. And I don't know that they necessarily had a whole lot of those. And when I say bridge, I mean somewhere in that 6th or 7th inning range. Whereas if you've got a lead and you can go to Joe Jimenez, Pierce Johnson, and of course close it out with Reynaldo Lopez, and to throw Dylan Lee in that mix as well. He's also been a part of that, and Grant Holmes for that matter. That's who the Braves have been going to here lately.
Yeah, I was going to say he's kind of lost that job to Dylan Lee and Grant Holmes here. He's really been going to those two guys more in that bridge situation to try to get to the back end, or as we saw the other day with guys unavailable, going to Dylan Lee and Grant Holmes in the 7th, 8th inning to get it, to your closer, who was Johnson in the day, but typically Reynaldo Lopez. So I think Chavez has just kind of moved down that pecking order a little bit in the Braves bullpens, while we probably haven't seen him as much. Bad luck for him in this day as well. He looked really good those first two batters, then gave up a couple of bloop hits. Jacob Young scoring from first on a bloop hit that just fell in the Bermuda Triangle out there. So otherwise, I thought he looked really good.
Yeah, I did not think it was a bad day for Jesse. I mean, you look at the line score, see a couple of hits in a run, and you think, oh, did he get hit around? And sometimes that's not the way. But they all do count the same, as the old saying goes, line drives and the box score, I guess. But good to see Jesse back out there on the mound. Hopefully we'll see a little bit more of him in some games in which he gets to do a little bit more for the Braves, and where maybe the Braves give their pitchers a little bit more to work with. 3 hits in this game. The Olsen solo homer, the only run. Sean Murphy and Orlando Arcia had the other 2 hits. They were both singles. The Braves also drew 4 walks in this game and punched out 12 times. I mean, this is a club that just continues to search for ways to find some offense. The Harris news certainly didn't help. But again, the good news they got, that it seems to be nothing major for him, is an injury bullet that's been dodged. But not a lot to speak of on the offensive side today. But on the homestand, there were some encouraging signs, I would say, from Matt Olson. But we've been down this road before. You just got to see if he can replicate it. I know he continues to work and work and work and work, but obviously he's well aware of where they are in the season, what hasn't gone his way, and what he'd like to do. So I guess there's nothing to it but to go out there and do
it. Matt Olson, it's been, up and down season for him. He had a really good stretch earlier in the year, either May or June, I think it was. But outside of that, it's really just been kind of up and down. So you want to see him finish the month strong. Big home run there, like I said earlier, to tie the game up. Absolute blast after he missed on the first two fastballs. They tried to sneak one by him again. This one was actually better located, I thought, but Matt Olson able to get to and drive it out to center field. No strikeouts on the day for him, 2 hard hit balls. So like you said, certainly some encouraging signs there for Matt Olson. Sean Murphy too, who's looked rough at the plate and honestly looked a little rough in this one as well, but he was able in that last at bat to shoot one the other way for a good hit. He had 2 hard hit balls on the day, but also, like I said, 2 strikeouts that didn't look particularly great. He's been struggling at the plate here lately. Need to get those 2 guys going. Those are 2 of your big power bats. You want to see them hitting those home runs, those extra base hits. Certainly help get this Braves offense going.
And it seems like maybe Murphy's kind of been, I don't want to say the poster child for this, but a lot of Braves that seem to be kind of caught in between where they'll expand their zone at times where you're like, well, why are you swinging at that? And then there's a lot of hittable takes that are going on as well. I don't know if that's simply a planning standpoint, a not expecting what you got standpoint, a trying to be patient to your own detriment kind of thing. But it feels like some combination of those things has really been ailing Sean Murphy for the majority of this year at the plate.
And a lot of Braves hitters too. It kind of feels like at times, and I think you've seen it from Marcell Ozuna at times here lately. It's trying to do too much. We've talked about it all year long, just the pressure on this offense. The guys that you're missing, the pressure they have for certain guys to step up. There was a sequence, I think it was Saturday, where 3 straight hitters came to the plate for the Braves. They didn't see a single pitch in the strike zone, and yet you had 2 strikeouts and a walk. It's just some of the plate discipline from these Braves hitters can be non-existent at times, and I think that can be associated to just trying to do too much.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of that going around, and there are guys I've talked to, and this is August now, but I'm talking about going back into May and June where guys felt like maybe we're recognizing that we're not where we want to be. We're not where we were a year ago. How do we get out of it? Well, try even harder, and sometimes that's a double-edged sword, especially in the game of baseball. For the Braves, offensively speaking, they're still looking to get some things going. Michael Harris not missing significant time would certainly be a big thing for them. Jorge Soler was also back in the lineup. He sat out on Saturday. That was a planned day of rest, Brian Snitker said, for him, but back out there on Sunday, and hopefully he will be over this hamstring ailment and in the lineup on a regular basis for the Braves as they head out on this road trip. When we come back, that's what we're going to do. We're going to head out and do a little preview of that road trip, get you set up for the Braves and the Twins, and of course, the second part of that trip is 4 games against the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll get to that next on the Braves Postcast. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. You can get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks, and you can turn $10 into $1,000. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB, all lowercase, for a first deposit match of up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on the Prize Picks app for a first deposit match of up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks. Well, let's take a look ahead for what's going on for the Braves as they will be looking to get off, or carry this momentum, I should say, and get off on the right foot, a winning foot against the Minnesota Twins. The injury scare to Michael Harris notwithstanding, couple of good series for the Braves here insofar as they were able to win them. They need to win them. They, again, need to win them all heading down the stretch. We'll see if they're able to do that. Important road trip, 2 good clubs. Minnesota Twins are chasing the Cleveland Guardians in the AL Central. This represents yet another test for the Braves against another postseason hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, every game the rest of the way now is the biggest game of the year. That's just the situation that you're in. But this road trip in particular, you're going on the road to face a really good Twins team that's right there in their division, two or 2.5 games back, I think it was, depending on the results from Sunday. And then you go play 4 against the Phillies. Look at your last chance. You want to try to get back in this division. I really think you have to go out there and at least win that series. But before you even get there, you got to go to Minnesota and try to take care of a really good team there that's playing good baseball, has some really good pitching. You talked about this offense and the struggles they're having. That Minnesota pitching staff is really, really good. So going to be another tough series for this Braves team. And like I said, you just got to win games, got to win series the rest of the way. Every game is the biggest game for this Braves team.
Yep, every game is a big game. Every series is a big series for the Braves. They're trying to hold off the New York Mets, who are behind them in the wild card, and we're having quite the battle out there with the San Diego Padres this weekend. The Braves still have the advantage there but they're also trying to make up as much ground as they can on either the Phillies in the East, which they still, I think, would very much like to win the division. That's probably not a secret. Is it the highest probability, though? No, I don't imagine that it is with just over 30 games to go, but they're going to give it the old college try, I'm sure. And then in the wild card race, you also have a couple of teams ahead of you. The Arizona Diamondbacks have played well in the second half. So have the Padres, but as these two teams have done, oddly enough, Padres have kind of cooled a little bit. Diamondbacks have heated up some. Is that going to put more pressure on the Dodgers? That remains to be seen. But those are two teams that you'd very much like to try to keep as much of a pace with as you can if you're the Braves as far as pushing in that wild card spot. When they're done in Minnesota, of course, the Philadelphia Phillies series is awaiting them. It's 4 games at Citizens Bank Park. It is the last time these two teams will face each other in the regular season. Final 3 days of August to the 1st of September. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves because clearly the Braves don't like getting too far ahead of themselves. The Minnesota series is what's up next, but you have to be thinking, especially after taking 2 out of 3 from the Phillies, that, hey, if you could just keep this momentum going, maybe you give yourself that chance.
Yeah, I mean, you got a chance. Like I said, this is the opportunity. It's this week coming up. If you can win a series against the Twins, go into that Phillies series with ideally 5 games back, and then you win that series and you go into the month of September 3 games back, you give yourself a chance. And look, there's many times this year I didn't think the Braves had any chance. Well, this is your opportunity. This is that week. And again, you can't get too far ahead of yourselves because you do have to face a very good Twins team, and you got to win a couple of those and hope you get some help as well. But either way, this is the week, I think, for the Braves to try to get some momentum going into the last month of the season, whether it is to run down the Phillies in the division or it is just to get on a run, secure a wild card spot, and maybe get back up into that top wild card spot. Whatever it is, time is running out. Grant, this is it for the Atlanta Braves team. So they got to get going, keep some of that momentum, keep winning series, like they've been doing.
Well, we're not quite ready to cue up the final countdown, but yeah, time is definitely ticking down for the Braves as they head down the stretch here, looking to make whatever moves they can, either in the division or, of course, in the wild card, and stay there. As of Sunday night, 2.5 game lead on the New York Mets for the final wild card spot. Then it really spreads out because it's the Giants and the Cardinals 5 games out, 5.5 for the Chicago Cubs and the Cincinnati Reds and Pittsburgh Pirates much further back than that. Not really looking like they're going to be the factors that about 3 weeks ago, some of those clubs look like they might be. But as we know, a lot can change, which was kind of the whole point of saying, who knows what will happen for the Braves over their final 32 games, but they do have that opportunity out there in front of them. It begins in Minnesota. Max Fried gets the ball in the opener. Spencer Schwellenbach and Chris Sale will follow. Fried will be facing right-hander Bailey Ober, and then the Twins will go with Simeon Woods-Richardson and David Festa. Those are the pitching matchups for this series. Braves throwing their 3 best arms, I would say, in a lot of respects here in Fried and in Schwellenbach and Chris Sale, though, as we've talked about, the starting 5 for the Braves has been pretty strong here lately, but these are 3 guys, if you're trying to win a series, you have to feel pretty good about.
Certainly. Fried, he looked much better his last time out, and I think has looked better each start since that injury that he had at the All-Star game. Schwellenbach's been fantastic. And look, Chris Sale, going against the Twins, we'll see. We talked about it last time the Braves face the Phillies. Look, if you are trying to run down the Phillies and catch them, obviously you want Chris Sale to pitch in that series. So we'll see if they stay with this rotation against the Twins. They've said right now, every 5th day, they're just going to stay with this plan the rest of the way in this rotation. But yeah, going into this Twin series, you couldn't really ask for 3 better starters for them to go to try to get a series win and keep that momentum going into that Philly series.
Well, it begins with Max Fried on Monday. He is 7-7, a 3.57 ERA, coming off 7 innings of 2-run ball against the Phillies last time out. Bailey Ober, meanwhile, didn't start the season off so well, but he has been one of many reasons why the Twins have been playing better baseball over the last 3+ months. 12-5 now, 3.54 ERA for the right-hander. Those two will hook it up at 7:40 p.m. Eastern time up in Minneapolis as the Braves and the Twins get their 3-game series started. That will bring us to the end of this edition of the Braves Postcast. As always, we appreciate you riding along with us. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta on YouTube. Leave us those likes and comments and share the show with a friend. And subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Once again, the Braves close out a winning series and a winning homestand, but the great challenge awaits them as they hit the road for a couple of playoff hopefuls, beginning on Monday with the Twins and a stop in Philadelphia when they're done with that. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Grant McAuley. We will catch you next time. And until then, so long, everyone.